So welcome back. I was running my 5-inch Jinty today at the club, and in driving it I noticed and remembered one of the little features that I made, which a lot of people that drive it think it just steps it up a little level. It's a really easy thing to add, and I'm going to add it to the 7 1/4 before she next goes out. Hopefully it's only an evening's work or so. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So obviously I put a lot of effort into the cab, making it look pretty close. But the little shelf above the fire hole door and the can. As it happens, the can is loose, not easy to get at, but when I made it, I put a little magnet in the bottom. Tiny little magnet, so that sticks to the steel shelf. So I'm going to do something similar for the big one. So let's take a look over here. So I've already taken the top runner off of the door. So what I'm going to do is make the shelf to go on the top runner, and then just tack weld it onto there. Then you can go on and we're good. Then we just got to look at the can. So what I've decided to use is start off with a piece of angle iron. I will then mill down to about halfway along and along, so that it gets rid of, so it looks like there's an edge, and then I will cut off the back, which may be done in the mill. Again, just cut it and then machine it flat, and then the final job will be round the corners to match the cutter, and then weld it to the crossbar. Let's take a look. So there was nothing particularly accurate about this. I just put it in the mill, machined it down about halfway, somewhere close to the edges. They'll want tidying up with the, possibly got a bit close to this end. It obviously wasn't quite square, but it is what it is. For what it is, it doesn't really matter. So I just need to flip it over, cut the back off, round the corners, and then that can go on the thing. And there we go, with a quick angle grinder to cut it off and then flat it off. The job was soon done, and I soon realised I had done the wrong piece. So yeah, that's a little bit of a pain in the backside. I managed to, just as you saw, just put that bit that got chopped off into the mill and sort it out. So that can now be tacked onto the top slider of the door mechanism. Let's take a look. So I've got it jigged up, gripped in the vise. I'm just going to put a couple of tacks on the back here, so if I've ever got a problem I can take it off. So my little tacks got carried away, put a couple of little stitches on the underside as well. Don't know if you'll see under here. No, I'll show you in a sec. It's a bit hot at the moment, but I've probably done a little bit more than that each way on the back as well. So as I said, they're the welds on the bottom, and they're the welds on the back. This one went a bit wrong, so I started there and I hadn't purged all the air from the TIG hose, but that one went better, and those underneath went reasonably well as well. Started off a bit cold, but cranked up the amps a bit, so they can go on the engine now. although I am already aware that this handle is going to hit the shelf. It just comes up above the door. So I'm going to take that off and bend it out a bit more. So rather annoyingly, to get this off, I had to take the whole thing off because there was a lock nut on the back of the bolt that goes in that hole. But I've taken it off, I've put it in the vise, I've bent it out a bit more, and hopefully that is enough and we can put it all back together. And there we go. It's in, it's working. The extra bend on the handle brings it out a bit further, which makes it easier in general. But now that it's bent a bit further, yes, it comes out past the door, but it's also lower than the door at all points. So that is now ready for a can to go on top. So now the shelf's made and installed, it's time to make the new tea can. When I've made the new tea can and I'm painting it, I may well give this one a repaint, because as you can see, it's got a bit dirty. It sits above the fire, so it's always going to burn at times. So I can't find the drawings I did to make that one, so I'm doing some new ones. I have taken all the critical-ish measurements of this one, written them down, and now I'm going to go around changing these dimensions to 7¼ so that's multiply by 1.45 for each one. And there we go, all multiplied and rounded ever so slightly to make them nicer numbers. It wasn't particularly accurately done in the first place, so that's close enough for what it needs to be. So the diameter at the biggest point is 1/2 inch. It was a couple of thou over based on measurements, but 1/2 inch will be fine. So I'll find a bit of 1/2 inch bar, which just makes life a little bit easier. So I've done all the conversions, and down here we're looking at the triangle, which is the taper of the can, and I've done a bit of maths, and it's only approximately equal to, because A, I've done some rounding along the way, and B, I couldn't find the inverse of tan function on my phone. But rather than mess around looking for another calculator that does, all I did was trial and error. So I tried tan of 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. 3 degrees was too small, 4 degrees was too big. So then split the difference, 3.5, which was too small, 3.6 was too big, and then it went down to 3.55, was pretty close. But I'm not going to get the cross slide to 3.55 degrees anyway, so the best I can hope for is 3.5. So, time to turn that up. So with the drawing to work to, here is my basic roughed out shape. The taper seems to have come to about the right place when I went to the right depth here, so my maths must be not far off. All that's left to do is round this. I'm going to part it part way so that I can round the bottom of the can as well, and then it can be chopped off permanently. So there it is, all radiused off, looking nice. I will just part it off, and then for a little bit of a trick. So I've mounted it the other way around in the lathe, partially so I could face off the back, but also I'm going to drill a small hole in the back, the reason for which I will show you shortly. So the hole wants to be a certain depth. I've drilled it until it looks like the cutting edge is at the end, so it's effectively flush. So and I want it to go 2.78 millimeters deep from what I've been told. So I've put the dial gauge up. Hopefully that will give me a reasonably accurate depth to go in. But first, the next stage is a handle that will just be bent out of a bit of wire, a couple of holes drilled and pushed in. Let's see what welding rod we've got to make into a little handle. Strangely enough, I turned around and there's a bit of 16th welding rod sitting there on the desk. So that will do the job nicely. So my tip for bending these to the right width, I would get some long nose pliers because they've got a nice tapered nose. Work out with my vernier whereabouts is the right width, grip it, and then just bolt the legs over. How about bend them over? So difficult to do with one hand while I hold this, but I'll show you the results in a sec. There we go. Now all that's left is to chop them to length and drill 2 holes in the side of the tea can. There it is. That just wants silver soldering together, and you see there's another hole further up as well. That's for the floppy handle. So we'll get that silver soldered in, then we can leave it to cool down and carry on later on. And while that cools down, I will go indoors and have something to eat and drink. So I've put it on top of a bit of tube. I gave it a coat of red primer first. I'm just going to put a couple of coats of white on, and then maybe a bit of varnish after. There we go. That can sit and dry while I go to work. Then we'll make the handle for the top tonight. You may have guessed from that comment, I've just popped out before work in the morning just to put a bit of paint on because I hadn't got around to coming back out after soldering it last night. So for the handle, I've just clamped a bit of wire, or 16th rod, around here. I'll bend it right around, nice and tight, and then back up the other side, chop it off, and that should be my handle. Let's give myself 2 hands and have a look. And there we go. Okay, I didn't get one of the bends quite as tight as I'd have liked, but that's not the end of the world. We'll see what it looks like on the can. And there we go. This is where I find it's too long. Yeah, that might be a touch on the long side, to be fair. Maybe we'll make another one a touch shorter. But we will also have a look at why I put the hole in the bottom. So today I had a delivery from Mr. Amazon. Some magnets, for which, with any luck, one of them is a good fit in the bottom. Wants a bit of tweaking, but that will go, I think. And there they are, finished. As you can see, both fitted with magnets. Although when I pushed it in, it did break the magnet. Maybe I pushed it a bit too hard. Might have been a bit on the tight side. At some point that will come out and a new one go in, but that will just stop it falling off the shelf, so it can just stay on there all the time. This one has been on the shelf in the cab of the 5-inch for 5 years, and it's never come out unless I've wanted to take it out. And there she is in place. The finishing touches. Having seen it against the new one, I've decided to give the old one, a smaller one, a coat of paint. Another advantage of the magnet, you can just stick it on the end of anything. I've used a centre punch in this case, to hold it while you give a coat of paint. So there we go, that's the end of that little modification to the back head with the can. I'll give you a little update on the wagon. I didn't have time, I haven't got time before I go away, but Alex is borrowing the engine to go to Hemsby while I'm away. So I've sort of left it with him to sort those axles out on the wagon. Latest is they've got the wheels off, they're going to make new axles and put bronze bearings in the axle boxes. So unfortunately I can't show you that. Maybe Alex will take a couple of pictures when he's putting it back together for us, and I can just show you what the solution we went with was. But otherwise that is it for now. I will try and get some videos of it running from Alex while he's got it away. But for now, thanks very much, thanks for watching, and please come back next time.